Test, 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 test. 1, 2. Test, test, test. Test, test. Intéressant. Okay. Et choses qui arrivent. Ok. Oui, on va voir si je fais. Ok.
Hey everybody, I'm Daniel from Space Dock. Some of you may have heard of me. If not, you can find a link in the description below to my channel, where I analyse spacecraft from various works of science fiction on a weekly basis. Today I'm covering for Eckhart's Ladder, who was kind enough to cover for us a while back, and I'll be talking about the 5 deadliest Star Trek starships from the United Federation of Planets. So let's get right into it. In 5th place, the iconic Galaxy class. Now I should clarify that I am measuring the 5 deadliest ships as of the latest point in the Star Trek timeline around Star Trek Nemesis, which I think places this around 5th, but I should clarify that when this ship was in its element, it was probably the most powerful ship the Federation had. It's the only ship on this list that is not technically a warship, because it predates the time at which the Federation started to adopt warships in response to the Borg Collective. Rather, it's an exploration cruiser that has quite a lot of weapons, and later got even more when it was refitted for use in the Dominion War. The ship has 42 decks and a crew complement of 1,000. It can travel at warp 9.8, though more often cruises around warp 6, and it's armed with up to 14 phaser arrays and 2 torpedo launchers, which can be used both to fire photon torpedoes and to deploy antimatter mines. The ship is fairly well shielded, especially after its refit, but carries very little in the way of hull armor. Regardless, the ship was often able to hold its own even against D-Deridex class warbirds and various large Klingon vessels, only really struggling when getting into the later years of its career, or when faced with overwhelming numbers. The ship also has a saucer separation system that allows the crew to be evacuated into the saucer section and left in a location of safety, while the star drive section turns around to engage or delay the enemy, as the civilian passengers and non-essential crew escape the area alive. In 4th place, the Akira class, as introduced in Star Trek First Contact. This is a fan favourite design, really cool looking ship. The ship is of a moderate size, fills a kind of heavy escort role, is one of the earliest dedicated warships designed to fight the Borg. Most of the deadliness of this particular ship comes from the large overslung torpedo pod on the pylon in the centre there. This pod features both forward and aft launchers and carries dozens of torpedoes that can make short work of most smaller vessels, especially if their shields have already been defeated. The Akira has numerous phaser strips across the saucer section and is portrayed as being very maneuverable, with its sleek and narrow frame providing a more difficult target for hostile weapons. The ship even has its deflector dish impressed into the hull so as to protect it from fire from almost any angle. And the overall space frame, at least from an in-universe standpoint, takes lots of inspiration from the older Walker class and the even older NX class. One of the coolest looking ships designed for the Federation in Star Trek, I think, and certainly one of the deadliest that we've seen on screen. In 3rd place, the Defiant class, the Federation's first fully admitted warship. Designed following first contact with the Borg Collective in the Beta Quadrant, the ship was intended to be a purpose-built attack craft, and is drastically different in almost every design sense from the Federation standard. The ship's base frame is a single solid piece, with its nacelles built into the hull for extra protection, and a very narrow, flat silhouette that helps with evading fire in close quarters combat. The ship is extremely maneuverable, more so than almost any other Federation vessel, and is equipped with 4 powerful forward-mounted pulsed phase cannons, which fire individual energy
Test, 1,
projectiles
2.
rather than uninterrupted beams, as is the Federation standard. The Defiant does also carry 3 conventional phaser emitters and 4 forward torpedo tubes compatible with the then-new quantum torpedo warheads that inflict far more damage than conventional photon torpedoes. The ship also has 2 aft launchers for mines and standard photon torpedoes,
1, 2, 1, 2.
and carries a crew complement of around 50 across 4 decks. The original prototype of the class, the USS Defiant, is one of the most famous ships in 24th century Federation history, playing a crucially important role in the Dominion War, and rather uniquely being equipped with a Romulan cloaking device that was lent to the Federation in a temporary exception from the Treaty of Algeron. This ship is fast, lethal, tough as nails, and was the first instance in a line of purpose-built defensive escort
1, 2, 1, 2.
craft for the Federation Starfleet. In second place, the awesome Sovereign class. This is the class of the Federation flagship, the Enterprise E. It's my favourite of all the Enterprise classes that we see across the course of Star Trek, and it has one of the slickest and most sophisticated looking designs I think we've ever seen in the Star Trek franchise. It's very flat and long, with a seamless transition between its secondary hull and its saucer section, and long swept pylons connecting to the nacelles. Of all the ships to be called Enterprise, this is the first one to be a warship, carrying 12 phaser arrays, 3 forward torpedo launchers, one of which carries quantum torpedoes, 3 rapid reloading aft torpedo launchers, and powerful deflector shields. Again, like the Defiant and the Akira, this ship has a very narrow forward and aft profile, making it very difficult to target when it's coming straight at you, and is also unusually maneuverable for a ship of its size. This is an impressive and imposing command ship, carrying lots of advanced sensors and communication systems, stellar cartography suites, and various other systems that allow it to coordinate a larger group of vessels over almost any range. We've seen this ship engaged in battle with Borg cubes, with Scimitar-class Riemann warbirds, and various other incredibly powerful ships, and it's always managed to put up an impressive fight, even without assistance. This ship has definitely achieved some of the most impressive ship-to-ship victories that we've ever seen a single Federation ship pull off in the series. Simply the fact that it was involved with the successful destruction of a Borg cube marks this vessel as very impressive indeed by the standards of Federation
Test du
starships.
micro 2, niveau 7.
Here we are in first place, and I'm forced to give this to a ship that I admit is technically the most deadly ship the Federation have ever used in Star Trek, but more's the pity because I hate this ship. This is the Prometheus class, and it's just the dumbest thing that's ever come out of Star Trek, and I'm going to hijack this top 5 list to rant about it. This is the ship that is your favourite when you're 15 years old and you watch Star Trek Voyager, because it's got a big pointy arrowhead saucer section, it's got 4 nacelles, it's covered in weapons, and it's got regenerative shielding and ablative hull armour. But most of all, it has something called multi-vector assault mode, where it splits into 3 ships, much like a G.I. Joe toy or something. Each one of these 3 components obviously looks terrible because it's just a third of another ship, so they all have like flat tops and covered in docking ramps and look ridiculous. The ship overall is covered in loads of tiny warp nacelles, so that each individual bit still technically works after it splits apart. This is the most DeviantArt self-insert fanfiction spaceship ever designed. Nothing has ever tried harder to look cool than this thing. And it's, I guess, worked to a certain extent because loads of Star Trek fans love this ship, and it is almost certainly the deadliest warship the Federation have ever used, but only by virtue of the writers wanting to make this thing as painfully badass as humanly possible. We see a separated Prometheus class swarm and destroy a large Romulan warbird in about 5 seconds in the Voyager episode Message in a Bottle, and that's while it was being operated by one confused medical hologram with no crew, so it's clearly pretty handy. It can also travel at warp 9.9, which is the fastest you can go in Star Trek before you're in all spaces and all times simultaneously and turn into a salamander. And according to some CGI reuse that we see in an episode of Star Trek Enterprise, this ship is still in service well into the 26th century, meaning it lasted like 250 years in its career. Personally, I prefer a ship with a bit more nuance, a bit more charm, like my beloved Jaeger class. But if you're looking for the ultimate in high-tech, fastest, strongest, best, my spaceship's better than your spaceship, one-upmanship, then this is the vessel for you. With real multi-vector action, electronic lights and sounds, and authentic battle damage, it's the Prometheus class. Also, it's named after a Greek tragedy. I mean, how many Icaruses and Prometheuses need to blow up before we clock on to the fact that this is a bad idea? Well, that was the top 5 deadliest Federation starships from Star Trek. I've been Daniel from Space Dock. Big thanks to Eckhart's Ladder for having me on, and if you're looking for more spaceships and more inane ranting, please do follow the link in the description and subscribe to our channel. This is Daniel from Space Dock, signing off. Thank you for watching Space Dock. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please do check out the links on the screen right now or in the description below for our Patreon and channel membership services.
Test micro
Anything you
1
can pledge goes towards improving our team and our equipment and allowing us to put together bigger and more exciting video projects for you guys on the channel.
Hey co-stars, welcome to Generation Film.
Test micro 1 niveau 7.
And I took time out from drinking tea and singing God Save the Queen to bring you this video.
Tea is a herb that's been dried out. So to bring it back to life, you have to infuse it in boiling water. That is boiling water.
Now a few days ago,
Test
we brought you a
micro
video
1 niveau
called 10
6.
Flaws of the Klingon Imperial Fleet. But don't worry, that Klingon cosplay uniform in your closet won't go to waste, because the Klingon Imperial Fleet wasn't really that flawed, so you're still going to be able to impress girls with your battle
Test
techniques
micro
and your
1
pet
niveau
tars.
6.
If you ever come close to me again, I will kill you. You need to stay away from me.
This is 10 advantages of the Klingon Imperial Fleet. Number 1. Devotion to battle. The Klingons were a deeply spiritual people. Kinda. They supposedly killed their original gods because they were more trouble than they were worth,
Switch
and were
micro
devoted
1
to
sur
the legendary
high.
warrior Kahlus. Kahlus taught that Klingons who died an honorable death in battle would join him in Sto-vo-kor, the Klingon afterlife, where they would have 72 virgins and... Wait a minute, let me just check my notes. Oh, okay, no, that's not it. They would fight an eternal battle with Kahlus against great enemies. On the other hand, Klingons who died a dishonorable death would descend to Grethor, which looks like this. I think the entrance speaks for itself, we don't need to see any more. Thus, all Klingons developed a determination in their heart to die an honorable death in battle and reach Sto-vo-kor, so they would never surrender, even if it meant sacrificing themselves.
Perhaps today is a good day to die.
Switch des micros de mono à stéréo.
So put simply, Klingons were determined in battle. War ran through their veins and influenced every part of their life, and thus the Klingon Imperial Fleet was a formidable fighting force. Number 2. Starship design. In the early days, Klingons were ahead of humans in terms
Micro
of technological
1 niveau
advancement.
6.
According to Quark, Klingons had developed warp drive in Earth year 1947. That's the year that humans had only just acquired alien technology, and would need another century or so and this drunkard from Montana to develop it into warp-capable craft, the Phoenix.
Micro 1 niveau 5.
By the time of the 22nd century and
Test
the
micro
NX-01
1,
Enterprise,
niveau 5.
Klingons had ships that could do Warp 6, whereas the Enterprise could only do Warp 5. They also possessed superior firepower.
Grab hold of something. And another one. Why are they attacking us?
They're not. If they wanted to destroy Enterprise, they would have done it.
In the 23rd century, a Klingon D7 class battlecruiser could take on a Constitution class starship, and if a fleet of them showed up, Starfleet would have no choice but to retreat.
In the 24th century, despite having to lower their military budget to deal with the Praxis incident and also make peace with the Federation, the Klingons did remain a formidable fighting force who were able to dominate against other enemies, such as the Cardassian Union, which they invaded in 2372.
Commence firing on the weapon platforms.
Number 3. Cloaking devices. Klingons supposedly obtained cloaking technology from the Romulans, not strictly canon, but whatever, and cloaking devices quickly became standard on most Klingon vessels. This gave the Klingons an advantage over non-cloaked portable species.
Back up. That must have bird of prey. She must have cloaked. Face shields.
The Klingons even developed a method of firing weapons while cloaked, which was used by General Chang's ship before it was destroyed by the Enterprise. The The Federation would later sign the Treaty of Algeron with the Romulan Star Empire, which forbade them from using ship-mounted cloaking technology, so the Klingons would retain this advantage into the 24th century.
What do you know about the Treaty of Algeron?
2311, it redefined the Romulan neutral zone.
It also outlawed the use of cloaking technology on Starfleet vessels.
Number 4. The ability to punch above their weight. The Klingon fleet relied heavily on the bird of prey, which were cheap to build and were mostly small models compared to the average Federation starship, but they were often able to punch above their weight, especially when dealing with Federation vessels that weren't 100% battle ready.
Ok, attention.
In Star Trek
c'est
3, The
bon.
Search for Spock, a single bird of prey is able to recover from an attack by the Enterprise and fire on the ship, crippling vital systems, forcing the crew to abandon ship and self-destruct. In Star Trek Generations,
Okay,
a
ça fait
single
pas
bird of
grand-chose.
prey destroys the
On peut regarder ça.
Enterprise D after getting inside info on their shield systems.
They have found a way to penetrate our shields.
Now that bird of prey was destroyed by the
Mixer
Enterprise
5,
just before she
niveau
went
10.
down, but hey, remember what Kayla said. Today is a good day to die. Number 5. Cavalry-style battle tactics. The Klingons often employed cavalry-style battle tactics where they would send ships in on raids
Mixer
behind enemy
5
lines.
de
The
Tuner.
tactic is to first send a couple of craft to carry out an initial attack, then retreat. Once the enemy thinks the attack is over and brings out crews to repair the damage, the Klingons begin the real attack with a larger number of ships. General Martok used this tactic when attacking a
Aucune
Dominion base
différence
on Trelka
entre
5,
Mazarin.
but the tactic dates back to the time of Kor, a Klingon warrior from the original series who used the tactic when attacking a Federation colony on Caleb 4. On a side note, this is what Klingons looked like in the original series with a limited makeup budget. Look, that's Kor there. Now, I know they did try to explain this lack of cranial ridges as the result of a vaccine for a virus in Enterprise.
My Targ won't even recognize me.
In the future, it may be possible to reverse the cosmetic effect.
I suppose this is what I deserve. Millions of my people will have to live with this disfigurement. It'll be passed on to our children.
But the real reason was just lack of makeup budget. Interestingly, Kor was actually played by the same actor, John Colicos, in both the original series and in Deep Space Nine when he was in his late 60s. He passed away when he was 71. Number 6, an Imperial Force. Ah, there's nothing quite like the glory of a massive empire subjugating other civilizations under one rule. Oh, the Klingons, yes. So the Klingon Imperial fleet served the Klingon Empire, which for much of its history was an expansionist power who conquered and subjugated a
Product not yet rated.
Activation du Yeti.
Wow. Look at you. Yeah, I guess you took the hard road. Ah, me too. You'd think we'd learn. Well, all in the name of progress, right?
Bon, test 1, 2.
Something better. Burning old. Bringing the new.
Test 1, 2.
How'd that work out?
Test 1, 2. Ok, ça c'est pas mal clair.
We trusted them.
Ok.
And now we fight them any way we can. For what?
Ok, retest 1, 2, 1, 2. Ok, c'est trop fort. Ok, test au minimum. Qui est quand même pas pire. Ouais, c'est bon ça.
I'm sorry. We're usually
Okay.
having a moment. I can leave y'all be.
What? The grav cycle? I'm a pilot.
Uh-huh.
It's called a pre-flight inspection.
No judgments here, huh?
Nothing in the tank.
Over here! I'm Sam! Hey! Anyone? Anybody hear me? How you doing, Sam?
Delivering cargo.
You the delivery dude? Oh, that's a relief. I've just about given up on you. Good job, man. Good job. Not that I'm surprised. I mean, you're you, right? About time I hopped on the whole chiral network bandwagon, am I right? Join the UCA and all that. You can help me do that, yeah?
Thank you. Kindly.
Come back soon.
Weapons restrictions lifted.
Just my luck. Someone's happy.
Turn off the engine. Step out of the vehicle.
El tiempo es el fuego en el que ardemos.
Nice ride. But I'm gonna need those keys right now.
I said right now!
Every day is danger. So take no risks. Don't fuck up. Don't talk back. They impose limits to control us. Limits to make us blend in. Make us safe. But we own the limits. And we'll own the night.
You know how fast you were going?
Survival of the fastest. No prizes for second place. But standing out means becoming a target. They destroy, so we design. They control, so we create. If you catch fire, run. You'll burn faster.
This way.
In this video, you'll experience a segment of a quest from the middle of the game. We're currently in Pacifica, one of Night City's 6 unique districts.
No Pacifica well.
Nah. You guys aren't exactly great at rolling out the welcome mat for outsiders.
It was designed to be a tourist hotspot within the city. As you can see, this didn't pan out. When uncertainty struck the global economy, investors pulled their funding, leaving most establishments unfinished. It's one of those places where expectations and reality collided, resulting in a heap of disappointment. Ongoing gang wars plague this part of the city. Outsiders don't come here if they don't have to, even by Night City's standards.
deep inside a dark zone. Let's run away quickly, because the infection will kill us. UV flashlight. Very strong, but needs to be aimed.
Ah, ok. Allô? Quand même sensible ce micro, ça pogne tous les sons. C'est sûr que le pianoter sur un clavier avec le Blue Yeti, c'est pas idéal, évidemment.